Here's my audience. Hello. Before I begin today, I'd like to ask you a question, and for you to think about it. How would you feel after you worked your full 8-hour job, you go to a part-time job that requires manual labor? You are compensated in just slight little manners. However, your boss and the company you work for are raking in millions upon millions of dollars, and they have absolutely no intentions of giving you any of it. That's pretty much the premise of how college athletics work these days. These universities are making millions and millions of dollars, and they are not paying or not compensating or giving any of the money to the student athletes because they fall under the student athlete, and they consider the education, room and board, and meals enough. Plus, the whole amateur status prohibits them from playing their players. I understand you're either on one side of the fence where they should get paid, or you're on the other side where, nope, what they have now is good enough and how the system works is perfectly fine. I completely understand. However, with the amount of money that is coming in, it is time that these players are at least compensated or paid a little bit for the time, effort, and energy they put in to perform on the field. So now let's take a look at what is driving these $1 million that are coming into these universities. I'm just going to strictly focus on football, given it's pretty predominantly the favorite, most popular sport in America, and it is what drives in most of the money. Let's take a quick look at this. I'm not sure if you can see this, but these, according to statisticbrain.com, which were just obtained earlier in April, the top 5 revenue and profit-generating schools are Texas, with a profit $68.8 million. Georgia profits $52.5 million. Penn State in third will profit $50.4 million. Michigan profited $44.9 million, and Florida profited $44.3 million. That's just off of football alone. Another key interesting fact from CBSSportsline.com, Alabama, who didn't even make that list, will generate more money from their sports program than most of the NHL teams. NHL are professional sports. Another key fact that has helped driving these multi-million-dollar deals is the money generated from the bowl games from football. Essentially, that is the postseason for college. They are going to a playoff system, but as of right now, it's strictly bowl games, which are 99% driven, sponsored by major corporations. So, the national title game will pay out to both teams that participate $18 million. The 4 other BCS Bowls, which are the Bowl Championship Series, which are the big bowl games, will pay out each team $17 million. Win or lose, each team was given, I should say not each team, university is given $17 million. Finally, in 5th place is Capital One Bowl, which pulls in $4.55 million. That's a drastic drop from 17 and 18 million, but still, that's a lot of money. Along with bowl games, these universities and conferences are raking in a ton of money in TV rights packages. According to ESPN.com, the ACC TV deal is worth $3.6 billion, and it is good for 15 years. The Big 12 will make $2.6 billion over 13 years. The Pac-12 will make $3.25 billion over 13 years. And finally, the SEC will bring in $3 billion over 15 years. Each school will roughly split between $14 and $22 million a year just on TV rights. So with all this influx of this money and generated from these bowl games and TV deals and ticket revenue and merchandising and all that, we come to what they're able to pay their coaches. Now keep in mind, these are college coaches. These aren't pros, they're college. Number one on the list is Nick Saban, University of Alabama. Makes $5.5 million a year for a college coach. Mack Brown, who just recently retired from the University of Texas, was making $5.4 million. Brett Bielema from the University of Arkansas is making $5.2 million. Butch Jones, University of Tennessee, is making $4.8 million. And finally, Bob Stoops from the University of Oklahoma, $4.7 million. Keep in mind, these are all state schools, they're not private. So that just shows, it kind of shows these schools are bringing in all this money, 40, or 5 years will make $100 million, yet they're only paying max probably $10 million to their coaching staff. Other than that, they keep all that $90 million. So why not give some back to the players who are the ones actually out there, putting their bodies on the line, going through all the extra work to perform. Another key point of this is athletes like Tim Tebow and Johnny Manziel don't profit off of their likeness and their jersey sales. When Tim Tebow was in college, the number 15 in Florida jerseys were selling like crazy. Was he able to see a dime of it? No. Just recently, Johnny Manziel, the number 2 Texas A&M jersey. Is he able to profit any of it? No. It strictly goes to the schools. That's not right. Because of him, that number's popular, so he should be able to market some of it. So that brings me up to some of the further compensation these players should get. One of the biggest things outside of monetary is extended health care. Concussions are the leading and the most long-term problem in today's football. It's not a secret. 34% of college football players have experienced one concussion. That has been disclosed. A lot of these players hide it because they don't want to come off the field to lose that potential of being noticed by the pro scouts. 20% have had multiple concussions. We all have seen the studies of what it leads to with CTE, chronic brain injuries, depression, and so forth. Another big issue is torn ACLs. 82% of players are able to come back and play after that. It's gotten better, but still, that's a major injury that will put a college player out for a whole year. So that's another point. It comes into not only should players get health insurance, that extended health insurance, they also need to get paid. And what it comes down to, if you pay a player a little bit of money, it gets them prepared for the pros. A study done on CBS Sportsline, 78% of players are broke after 2 years, when they're 2 years out from done playing. 78%. A key fact of maybe possibly these players getting money so they know what it is. Rod Smith, famous Bronco player, has invested pretty smartly after his playing career. Without his coffee shops, he now makes more money off of his coffee shops than he did when he was playing professionally, which he made $13 million playing professionally. His coffee shops make him more money. So fine, that brings me back to my original point. The hypocrisy within the NCAA of these players being student athletes and them not wanting to pay them, it's archaic. It's time to start compensating these players for the effort they're putting onto the field. Another thing is these universities are supposed to be their main priority, supposed to be education. But obviously, it seems like their main priority is bringing in money, and that's it, strictly. Education is now secondary. And they hide behind the student-athlete mantra. So I ask you again, my original question, how would you feel if you went and worked a job, kind of hearing now what you have heard, Your company's making millions and millions of dollars, and they plan on giving you absolutely nothing. How would you feel? So I asked, if when the news comes up and topics of this nature comes up, please take a listen, read, listen to what they're saying, and kind of see the hypocrisy of the NCAA and what it means. And see that maybe it's time we start looking at this whole student athlete and see that it's time for them to get paid. Not like the pro level, but a little bit. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, I have a question. Okay, so the schools are raking in these, $15 million amounts, and these coaches are getting paid $5.5 million. And the athletes are not getting paid. What's happening to all this money that's being earned off of these games at the university? What does the university do with this money?
That's a good question. Without going into their books, who knows? Then you're seeing their stadiums having $15, $20 million renovations. I mean, do you need a college stadium? University of Michigan holds 110,000 people. Do you really need a stadium that big for college?
Good point.
I have a question. Would all the players be compensated the same for each position, or they all be compensated the same just because they're a player?
I think to make it even, it would be across. So obviously, the compensation would need to be, we're probably talking a couple years down the road yet for the final details to figure out what's fair, what's not fair. Is player A going to make more than player B just because they're a quarterback versus a linebacker or popularity? Not sure, but somewhere down the line, it would have to be even to be fair. Any more?
No, I think you brought up a very good point about long-term, the need for even a health insurance benefit would be helpful.
Especially with the brain injuries.
Exactly.
I wonder, do you have any idea if they would deduct the cost of the education? A student going to school for medical versus a student going to school for being an accountant, their degrees, their college educations, they're not going to be on the same level of cost.
That's a good point. Some of the money they could say, just hypothetically, you start at $90,000, your education is valued at $30,000, we'll pay you $60,000.
Oh, good point.
Hypothetically, who knows? Well, thank you.